In 2016, archaeologists working at the site of Beycesultan in Turkey uncovered a burnt artifact that turned out to be a piece of fabric. Finding textiles in the archaeological record is rare, so this was a fortunate find. However, in 2018, another burnt textile fragment was uncovered at the site, but in a different building. This is like winning the archaeology textile lottery twice. The discovery of these objects was just the beginning. These two burnt artifacts also reveal something new and blue about Bronze Age textiles in Anatolia. Hi, I'm Dr. Smiti, and I'm an archaeologist. In this video, we're going to explore these two burnt artifacts and how they're changing what we know about Bronze Age textile history in Anatolia. As we mentioned, these two burnt artifacts were excavated in 2016 and 2018 from the 35-hectare site of Beycesultan. To understand why these fragments matter, let's take a look at the site that they come from. Beycesultan is located on a mound in the southwestern Denizli province of Turkey. The overall site appears to date between the late Chalcolithic and the end of the Bronze Age. One major finding was a large structure now known as the Burned Palace, given that it was destroyed by a huge fire. This large building dates to the 2nd millennium BCE. In addition, there were other types of buildings that included religious spaces, houses, and shops. When it comes to these two burned textile artifacts, the fact that they were found at the site is particularly notable. The reason for this is that we think that Beycesultan was a production center for a Bronze Age textile industry in this region. In addition to the two artifacts we mentioned, the sheer number and range of textile tools archaeologists found are the main reason we think it was a textile production center. Archaeologists have found loom weights, spindle whorls, needles, and awls throughout the site. These tools indicate that both spinning and weaving were happening here and at scale. So the site was already telling us a textile story. But these two artifacts introduce plot twists that no one expected. So let's take a look at these artifacts. The first textile fragment, known as T1, was excavated from a Middle Bronze Age area that had been destroyed by fire. Scholars aren't sure if this particular area was a courtyard, but T1 was discovered in the western part of a room, which was probably used as a workshop. When it was excavated, the fabric fragment was stuck to the floor and spanned around 0.45 meters. There was a stone weight on it, and next to it were 4 post holes. Now, a post hole is an archaeological feature where a timber post originally stood, but the wood has since deteriorated, but you know it was once there because you can see a difference in the soil texture and color between the post hole and the surrounding soil. Archaeologists think these post holes were originally part of a loom. So in summary, T1 was found in a building alongside various textile production tools. If we now look at T2, the second fragment, it came from a different building entirely. It was discovered in a large Middle Bronze Age house that had also been destroyed by fire. It was found near a hearth, and while exact measurements of T2 have not been offered, it seems to stretch around 130 millimeters according to the photograph in the publication. There were also a lot of different textile-related artifacts near T2. For example, 47 different types of spindle whorls were discovered, as well as baked clay loom weights shaped like crescents, pyramids, and hooves. This led scholars to propose that this area was a possible textile workshop. So even before the researchers analyzed the textiles themselves, the rooms that they came from were already crafting a compelling story about what was happening at Beycesultan. But researchers did decide to go deeper, and what they found is changing the story significantly. So what did they find that's changing what we previously thought about ancient Anatolian textiles? Well, apparently a lot. When researchers analyzed both fragments under a scanning electron microscope, they found something interesting. The fibers of T1 resembled hemp fibers. T2's fibers were not as clear given its preservation, but it was most likely made from plant or bark fibers, which could be something like linen or hemp. When it comes to hemp, it comes from the cannabis sativa plant, and its fibers have been used for making textiles for millennia. Now, we do have examples of hemp use in past textiles, but what makes this detail potentially groundbreaking has to do with how T2 was made. Researchers learned it was made using a tabby weave. So what does that mean? This means that the weft goes over a warp and then under the next. Warp and weft are the most basic components of weaving. The warp is the yarn that is held stationary and taut on a loom, and the weft is the yarn that is pulled through the warp by going under and over. So if T2 was made with hemp, it would be the first example of late Bronze Age tabby weave made from hemp in this region. So you might be wondering, if T2 was made with the tabby weave, what was going on with T1? Well, T1 does not show warp and weft, so it most likely wasn't woven. Instead, it shows the use of a continuous thread, which likely indicates the use of the Nålbinding technique. Nålbinding is a fiber technique where there's a single needle with an eye, kind of like in sewing, and the entire length of yarn is pulled through each loop as you Nålbind. It's actually thought to predate knitting and crocheting. Nålbinding was common in many places across the world, especially in Scandinavia, North Africa, Eastern Europe, and yes, Western Asia. In fact, T1 demonstrated the earliest use of the Nålbinding technique in Anatolia. And the discoveries for T1 don't stop there. Researchers applied a technique called high-performance liquid chromatography with photodiode array detection. This was used to detect potential dyestuffs in the artifacts. Using this technique, researchers found the use of indigo dyes. This means that this textile fragment would have been colored indigo blue. Now, indigo was a popular dyestuff in the past. It's been found in archaeological contexts in Anatolia, Crete, and the Indus Valley. To achieve the indigo blue color, several plants could have been sources in the past. In the case of T1, researchers think that the biennial flower Isatis tinctoria, also called woad, would have been fermented to extract the blue color dye as it grows in the region. The researchers analyzing these textiles argued that this fabric is the oldest known blue fabric discovered in Bronze Age Anatolia. This is huge. According to other artifacts and textual sources from ancient Southwest Asia, blue was a popular color choice during this time period. In fact, blue fabric was worn by elite folks, used to pay taxes, and it's even been found in royal tombs. So the fact that this color has been found here gives us an idea of the people that Beycesultan might have been producing textiles for. So the discovery and the analysis of these two burned textile artifacts are changing what we know about ancient Anatolian textile practices. T1 gives us the earliest Nålbinding example in Anatolia and the earliest indigo-dyed fabric in a Bronze Age Anatolian context. T2 potentially gives us the first late Bronze Age hemp tabby weave found in the region. Together, they tell us what Beycesultan was producing. The fire that initially destroyed the building in which these two artifacts were found actually preserves some of the only direct evidence we have of what was being made inside of them, making this a rare and fortuitous find. Now, if you're curious to learn more about other textile discoveries, we have a video on socks as well as knitting, both of which we will link below. This video is part of our Artifact of the Day series, where we take a quick look at one intriguing object from the past, or in this case, two. If you're interested in watching another Artifact of the Day video, check out the video here.